Alright, hello, I am Shaken Bako. I was the head level designer on the Avatar Legends, and today we're going to be building our first map for the single player adventure that you'll be creating. If you've already watched the multiplayer tutorial, you probably don't need to watch this. I'll just be covering basically most of the same things. I'll be building a map, and I'm not going to get into too much of the actual adventure exclusives. So if you've watched that tutorial, feel free to skip ahead. Now if you're new, what we're going to do is we went to build adventure, and now we're going to create our first map. So just name it whatever you want. In this case, I'll just name it tutorial map, or tutorial 01. Width and height determine basically how large your map is. Theme determines the textures by default, which will appear. You can of course change that. Elevation is by default what elevations are on your map by default, and elevation detail is how many elevation nodes appear. In my case, I went to flat and none, which only makes one elevation node, so I have to make the elevations from scratch, which I personally prefer because elevations are basically what your map's what your map style looks like, I find. So I'm just that's going to be my starting area, what I built, and I'm building some high elevations around it to block the player from skipping to the end of the map, because I'm going to have the end right next to it. Now I'm building some low sections of the map, which will be a beach. And I'm going through this quickly just because I already covered this in the multiplayer map tutorial, so if you want a little more detail in each of these features, feel free to watch that one. This is basically just a quick overview of building and preparing you for the adventure we're going to create. Now I like to build high elevations around the edge. This is so the player isn't looking off the edge, and also to provide a sort of wall or barrier. If you play a lot of adventure games, this is no surprise. The Legend of Zelda series used to do this all the time, and it's just something that I like to do to basically to keep the player on track, so they actually play your map and they don't skip your map, and by walking over the hills, or it's a little linear is what I like to build my maps. Of course, if you want your map to be open, go ahead. You could build a giant city and have it so you can walk any direction you want, and have your exits anywhere you want. I just prefer a little linear for a game of this size, so that's just my preference. And actually, what you didn't see in the multiplayer tutorial, if you watch this, is after you build your water, you can actually select edit, grab the water, and hit left and right to change the color of the water, and you can also change the direction with your right stick. There's different types of water, like different colors you just saw: lava, ice. There's a lot of different water you can use, and I changed it to a little bit of a greenish water because I think that looks good for a beach. And now this area where I'm building right now is going to be your starting location. So I'm going to put the hero's house there. So I'm going to use my favorite house, which is in the specialized structure category. I just personally prefer this one. This is probably one of my favorite houses in the game, so I like to use this one as sort of your house when you start, your avatar's house. And now what we're going to do is build a travel location. This was where the hero will spawn when we start our adventure, so let's call it start. And let's change the active to active, which means you'll be able to warp to that location at any time. And if you hit right bumper, we'll go to this menu, and you can select your start map and starting location, which I just did. So your start map will be tutorial 1 in my case, and my starting location will be start, which is the travel location I just built, which is exclusive to the single player adventure designer. Now I'm just going to build some structures just for style. Now if you're trying to copy along, you don't have to build a map like this. I'm just building this out of style. This is basically just showing you how to build some structures, and here's actually a little important thing is when you're building a structure, if you want to build a fence or a wall, oops, I selected the wrong category. Go to bridges, walls, and boats. And what you can actually do is you can actually link your fences very quickly. So let's line this up here. And if you actually see that yellow part, you just hit the Y button and it will connect your fence. Now if you hold left bumper and Y button, it will actually not only connect it, but it will connect it in the exact same angle that you were building before. So you can build a couple fences in a straight line or a couple walls, which is a pretty handy tool to build fences and walls quickly. Now I'm just building some tall grass, and what you can do with tall grass once you've built it, which I'm not doing in this tutorial, but you can actually build it and hit the left D-pad, and you can actually change the texture of the tall grass. There's a couple different ones. I personally am not doing that because I like the default texture for the sand map or for the beach map. However, you can change it to a sort of dry tall grass. You can change it to different types of flowers, which you may or may not have saw if you watched the multiplayer tutorial. You can also do this with trees as well. Your paths. And now what you can do is you can grab your terrain layers, which is what I talked about, your theme, and you can actually increase or decrease the elevation of the theme, as you may or may not be seeing. It decreases how tall. See, I just made the sand taller. And you can also hit left and right D-pad to change the texture, which I'm not doing because I like the default textures. However, you can do that and create whatever combination of textures you want, and they'll blend together. And now you can do this with paths as well, but once again I'm leaving in default just so I can build a quick map. And I also like the default path. Now let's just build a couple more tall grass sections, and we'll start building some trees as well. And like I said, if you are a little bit falling behind, feel free to watch the multiplayer tutorial. I go a little slower in that tutorial. This is basically just to give you a quick overview. And right and left trigger change the trees, and left and right bumper change the leaves. Not all trees have different leaves, but most of them do. I like using the brown tree just because I think it looks good, because you're in a beach area. Trees are a little not quite as alive due to the sand. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now we're gonna actually just pause and save. You may have noticed I've done that several times through the video. I just like to save every few minutes because you never know what can happen. You can have a power outage, or your Xbox could freeze up, or you don't know. I just like to save it quite often. I'm just a little compulsive. Now what you can do is you can actually grab a terrain curve and build it over the water, which I just did, and hit left and right to change the texture. So I'm going to change it to the sand texture, and what we're going to do, we're going to build a lighthouse over here. So we go to structures, specialized structures, and switch over to the left right trigger over to the lighthouse. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab a bridge, and as you can see, it doesn't quite match up right. It's a little too high. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a bridge about where it should be and actually increase the terrain elevation. This might be a little too low. It looks a little low, but we'll try it. Let's see how it looks. Okay, as you can see, it was still a little too low. We usually want the terrain or the sand to go over top of where the bridge entrance is. Alright. That works pretty good, except that right edge was a little off, as you might have saw. So let's grab it, the terrain curve, edit it, bring that node over, and rebuild. There we go. We have a bridge. If we could walk over that right now if we went to test it. Now let's just build our paths. And as you can see, that lighthouse was a little small. So I'm just grabbing and editing it to make the door still a little small. There we go. That's the right size. And if you don't like that avatar being on, as I showed in the multiplayer tutorial, you can actually hit the start button, go to settings, and turn it off. I use it on just for what you just saw, to make sure the heights of structures are correct. And there we go. We have our map build. Now in the next tutorials, we'll go over much more, including the unique features of the Adventure Builder. Thanks for watching, and please watch the next tutorial. Thank you.